Hello, everyone. Greetings to all of you. Welcome to our first webinar. Thank you for joining us. Please note that the session will be recorded and distributed. My name is Marie-Rose Murphy, and I'm the co-founder of Fondation Communautaire Haitienne Espoir, also known as the Haiti Community Foundation, Haiti's first community foundation. I'm also the co-founder of Espoir and the president of RMC Women Murphy Consulting. I will be the moderator for the social change webinar. Now, let's take a deep breath and then start. When you think about Haiti, what comes to mind? No need to share it, because now we'll have to question. Is it extreme poverty? Is it violent protest, political instability, failed state, or is it the infamous, the poorest country of the Western Hemisphere? This is a toxic narrative that comes to mind, and in itself, it impedes a country's development. Our people internalize it. External stakeholders see us as hopeless and helpless. No question about it, we need to change it. We, the Haiti Community Foundation Network, are doing this series of webinars to take control of Haiti's narrative and uplift Haitian leaders' vision, perspectives, and initiatives. I was told once by a researcher at the Council of Foundations, now Candid, that she had never seen a case like Haiti, where all organizations that were listed under the country were international, not local. It is imperative that local leaders be visible. It's critical that we be put on the map, because who can invest and support the invisible? The truth is that as thankful as we are to our international allies, supporters, and partners, the solutions to transform Haiti into the thriving and inclusive nation that it can be needs to be Haitian. Nothing else will do. I want to thank our panelists for joining us. After their presentations, we will have a 20-minute questions and answer sessions. Participants can drop their questions in the chat or raise their hands if they want to intervene during the Q&A. Regine will act as our chat manager. If you would like to tweet, please use Pathway for Haiti, for being a number, hashtag. Thank you so much for joining us. Without further ado, allow me to introduce our amazing panelists. I'll say so myself. We will talk about their work, their vision, and most of all about their transformative initiatives for Haiti. François Chavenet, treasurer, co-founder of the Haiti Community Foundation, Fondation Communautaire Haitienne Espoir, Haiti's first community foundation. Haiti-led, Haiti-based, focus on the needs of Haiti's communities. Regine René Labrousse, a leader of Carrefour l'Espoir, which means Crossroads of Hope, a space of collaboration for the transformation of Haitian society. Henri-Louis Mars, executive director of La Cour La Paix, which means Community of Peace, a local organization whose strategy is to prepare and seek to empower local groups to take responsibility for conflict transformation in their neighborhoods. And finally, least but not last, Gilles Sassine, who manages the coordination of La Grande Fondation d'Haïti, a philanthropic network focused on bringing Haiti's philanthropic institutions together to better serve Haiti. Thank you so much. And François, I'm passing you the baton here.
Good morning, thank you. Hello, everyone. It is a privilege for me to speak this morning on behalf of the board of Fondation Communautaire Haitienne Espoir, FCH Espoir, also known as Haiti Community Foundation, Haiti's first community foundation. In a context where development and humanitarian processes are top-down, we constructed and developed a bottom-up approach. FCH Espoir works with communities, for communities, tête ensemble, which means heads together. Our approach is consistent with our vision of a thriving Haiti with an inclusive society where all are equally welcome and supported. You understand, therefore, that in Haiti, a country whose budget is 60% dependent on foreign aid and with several thousands of NGOs, very often operating without state control, initiating such a process just after 2010's earthquake was not an easy task. The building of the Haiti Community Foundation was a long journey that greatly benefited from the solidarity of countless regional and global community foundations and institutions. We are very thankful for it. This community-led process allowed us to be creative and constructive when setting up our own structure. As it stands, FCH is built as a national network with regional funds, with regional committees endowed with operational autonomy required to achieve effective and sustainable results. Adopting a bottom-up and community-led process is not the only way we broke the rules. We selected a region that was left behind and neglected in a country that has been left behind. We didn't say that we were coming, we asked if we could come. We didn't jump into short-term projects. We went first through a thorough regional planning process that included the region's 12 communes and hundreds of leaders in all sectors. We promised our communities to always work with them, and we have been keeping our promises. The results, an unprecedented level of community engagement and support that still remain with community stakeholders, donating their time, their work, their space, and contributing their money. A deep sense of pride about our Haitian Helping Haitians approach and projects that are highly effective and sustainable because they are designed by the community to meet its needs. This community building, community mobilizing, and nation building approach brought people, communities, and the region together across sectors, across politics, across divides. It established a resilient human network that was invaluable following the passage of devastating Cyclone Matthew. Levé Campé was born and designed out of an assessment with 240 community leaders. Its main purpose was to provide emergency aid to families with the most needs in the most affected municipalities and rural sections that international aid didn't reach. Basic survival kits donated by local businessmen were distributed, as well as sheet metals for roof repairs. Secondly, assistance with the restocking of goats and pigs, coupled with reforestation and replanting program, given the extent of damage caused by this hurricane. Our process was very unlike the mass distribution approach generally used, where it is muscle strength and the network of chronism which too often determine the distribution of aid. The initiative that we're currently working on is called Développement Grandance, and aims to go beyond emergency and humanitarian assistance, notwithstanding the timely intervention we have made to mitigate the impact of COVID-19 on the region. Closer links have been forged with other important players in the community, such as locally elected officials, ministries, and more importantly, the 3 regional universities with which we are developing a win-win partnership for research and project supervision and practical opportunities for rewarding internships for graduating students. As a result, more ambitious economic projects are underway, which will contribute to the improvement of agricultural practices, more efficient management of the environment, the establishment of financing mechanisms according to the MUSO model, the establishment of communities, stores, and above all, a practical opportunity to experience a pilot project in the circular economy with an industrial partner. We are also identifying partners in another region with values similar to ours and with whom we could travel together by providing operational know-how. Yes, we are expanding. FCH Espoir was born from an alliance of Haitians from the diaspora and from the motherland who understood the need, this historic alliance, which must be beyond simple remittances of subsistence funds to family members back in the country. We are confident that this trusted platform under construction will bear fruit, allowing regional diasporic groups to support specific projects in their communities. We are also delighted to see the emergence of several initiatives and platforms for debates aimed at turning the fate of this nation, which has failed for various reasons throughout historical turmoil. This civil society is in full gestation, and it is important or even critical to take the time to listen to each other, to appease our historical hills, and to build this natural arch which must bring us to the other side, where awaits us renewal and collective well-being. Finally, we are very thankful to our partners and donors, in particular, the Inter-American Foundation, the Global Fund for Community Foundation, Fondation Sogebank, Fondation Capital Bank, Global Giving, and many individual donors in the Global Giving platform. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Francois. Thank you for your presentation.
Unfortunately, the pictures we had of the projects were not able to be shown.
Thank you. We can always show them towards like the end. Thank you, Francois. Thank you for your presentation. And at this point, Regine, it's your turn. Come on.
All right, I'm ready. Are you guys ready? So I have a PowerPoint that I'm going to share. So let me add that immediately. Okay, so Carrefour d'Espoir. Yeah, that is not what I meant to share. 1 second. So Carrefour d'Espoir, I'm going to start talking while I'm doing this because I know everyone is busy. You know, when we were told we had 8 minutes for this, I'm like, oh my God. When we talk about Carrefour d'Espoir, it usually takes us at least an hour and a half. So I'm going to really go very quickly, give you guys a high level taste of what Carrefour d'Espoir is all about. And then invite you guys also to visit the website to find out more information. And if you're really interested, I'd be more than happy to set up a separate meeting aside to talk about Carrefour d'Espoir, okay? So to jump right in, so what is Carrefour d'Espoir? You know, at its origins, it's two leaders by the name of Charles Clermont and Jean-Paul Faubert. Perhaps you guys know them. If you don't know them yet, you should definitely get to know them. About July 2018, when we had our first Pays Loc, unfortunately, they have businesses go down in flames, and just were really frustrated with this situation that we're facing yet again. And they turn that frustration into energy to do something different. Okay, so we're here to talk about transformative change, and Carrefour d'Espoir is at its base a project that is 100% about transformative change. So from that time, July 2018, Jean-Paul and Charlie went on this mission to meet the best and the brightest leaders, the most active leaders in the country. Not just in Port-au-Prince, but throughout the country, and had one-on-one meetings for 300 leaders. And these guys are super busy, but they're even more dedicated and put in that time. And that's how I met them. And so the leadership of Carrefour d'Espoir expanded beyond Jean-Paul and Charlie, and it went to a convening team of 7 leaders. Gilles Sassine, who's on the panel now, happens to also be one of those great leaders. We have Nayed Jasmin, Gelmana Rousselin, Woody Edmé, quite a few. All the bios are on the website. I don't want to spend time on that because it's not about us individually, but it's really about the work that we're doing together, the collective leadership that we're working so hard to bring about. And, you know, in this process of trying to find out who those leaders are, it's like, okay, there's obviously great leaders in this country, but everyone is kind of in their own little corners, doing their own little things, and are not able to have the impact that they could potentially have. So at its base, Carrefour d'Espoir is about bringing those leaders together in a space so that they can emerge something different, something that can transform the Haitian society. So this graphic that I have here is really, you know, looking at Haiti as, unfortunately, a collective failure, all the bits and pieces. And each step, you know, you see Haiti as being more united. So these are just some important steps for that transformative change. Like the national dialogue has to happen, even though somehow we even kind of turn that into a bad term. So we're always reluctant to say dialogue national, but it is what it is. And all of us working together to transform the system to have that transformed society that we so desperately want and need. So the approach that Carrefour d'Espoir has had and is really a transformative scenario planning process. This is the methodology that we are using. And it's a methodology that a gentleman named Adam Kahane has been mastering over the past almost 30 years. Nelson Mandela, he was Nelson Mandela's key person in transforming South Africa when they were transitioning post-apartheid. So he's been doing this for a couple of decades in over 50 countries. So we've been blessed to raise the funds needed to hire him for his services. And I think that fact that we were able to raise money, and not just raise money for Carrefour d'Espoir, but raise money from Haitian entities. It's 100% Haitian funded. Over 30 companies and individuals have donated to this project, to this process, and we've raised over $600,000 for this process. So what is this process that we've been working on? So here are the steps for transformative scenario planning. For step 1, it's about convening that team. So I talked earlier about the 300 leaders that we had the difficult task of narrowing down to 49 leaders. trying to get a microcosm of the country, making sure that the different voices were present, were alive within this microcosm, as we call it, of the 49 leaders. So different walks of life, a combination of activists, of business leaders, of marchands, of youth leaders, a little bit of everything from throughout the country. And the second step is to get them to work together, build trust amongst each other. And if you're used to working in Haiti, you know that trust is very often a big challenge for us. So we put a lot of effort into building trust amongst these 49 leaders and getting them to observe what's really happening in Haiti. Because we often fall for the traps of thinking we know what's going on, but we really have no idea. So we met with subject matter area experts trying to better understand, okay, what's happening in the political sector, in security, in education, our cultural identity issues. We really got into the weeds and the details, provided the space, the opportunity for those 40 leaders to learn and ask questions and grow together throughout this whole process, this whole observation process. And then the third step is about constructing stories about what could happen. So this is the scenario planning process. So all of us getting together and looking at, okay, what are possible realistic futures of the country? What can happen now that we've observed, where we were, where we've come from, where we are today? What is possible for the future of Haiti? And I'm gonna get into what the group decided on. They decided on 3 different stories, 3 different scenarios for the future of Haiti. And the fourth step is about discovering what can and must be done in order to get us all moving towards that preferred scenario. Okay, and step 5 is about acting to transform that. Sorry, this thing is going forward. Okay, so it's about us acting to transform that system, and also disseminating the scenarios that the group has been working so hard on. And the different levers here are, okay, so we've decided on, we want the future of the country to go into this direction. What are those key levers that we need to take on in order to shift the paradigm, to really move things forward into that direction? So grosso modo, these are the 5 steps of the methodology that we've been applying in Carrefour l'Espoir. Okay, so this slide is, this is convening of the team. Having a bit of all the sectors, that microcosm, and making sure that the leaders that are selected, c'est pas n'importe qui. These are people that are well respected in their fields. They have a strong following. So that's what these numbers represent. So the group that we got together, people will recognize them and people will listen to them to understand what's been happening within Carrefour l'Espoir and what they are doing together, not individually, but together. And so these are the fundamental observations that they've seen. I'm gonna kind of breeze quickly through these just for the sake of time, but as I'm speaking, I definitely invite you guys to read this into a bit of detail. So that society characterized by mistrust. This is the biggest blocker that we've observed. Abandoned peasantry, loss of moral values and identity, sense of community, all of that. And this is a synopsis of the scenarios that the group came up with. This was a fun, busy, hard exercise, but high level, numele. This scenario represents the status quo amplified, continuous band-aid approaches to our deep-seated problems is not working. Aid dependency, violence, crime, increased corruption. This is one scenario. The second scenario is consent fait. And consent fait is that harsh dictatorship, that authoritarian regime that takes over and decides the fate of the future without buy-in or say-so from the community, from the society. And then the soleil levé, This one is, the sun rising. This is where there's strong civil society engagement. The citizens are really stepping up into their responsibilities and contributing to this different future for Haiti. And this is very high level, these bullet points, but the team over the months that we worked on this, we really dug into details, and the report is over 20 pages long, really looking at, okay, if we go towards a Numile scenario, this is the impact that it has on the economy, on the family structure, on the education system, on the health system. It really goes down and seeing how this type of leadership impacts life in Haiti on all those different elements. And the group decided on Soleil Levé. Okay, so everyone is within the leadership. The 40+ leaders have decided, all right, we've talked about the different possible futures of Haiti. We're all in agreement that we want to see Soleil Levé en Haiti. They want to see the sunrise in Haiti. So we proceeded in that direction, following their leadership, and developed different ways to rally other groups within the society, because it needs to emerge beyond the 40+ leaders that have been working together for the past 11 months towards that collective vision, the communication and dissemination plan, further crystallizing what are those initiatives, those levers that are going to really shift Haiti towards the Soleil Levé that we've all agreed to working towards. And this is a glimpse of the initiatives. We haven't gone public yet, so that's also why I'm not sharing the names of the leaders and just giving a glimpse of certain things, because everything is happening towards a very strict and adapted methodology towards our Haitian situation. Okay, so the 3 initiatives, the first one is based on business, really building solidarity and consultation for wealth creation for small farmers and young entrepreneurs. And even, the private sector in Haiti just has such a bad reputation. And despite that, there are still some really good leaders there that are doing good things that need to be boosted or better enabled. So all of that is part of the business initiative, thinking beyond what the stereotype is of the private sector and really opening the doors for what the private sector really is. It's people that are in business and including all levels of business, the Madame Salas, bringing everyone in and being part of that discussion and taking action towards things being built differently. Education, modernization of the system. We all know that the fallacies of the education system and the boost, but again, there are good things happening there. And one of the leaders within Carrefour l'Espoir has been doing something that has been working not only in Haiti, but internationally. So the team was so enamored by this project and realizing how impactful it is. And the team is really backing this project up and expanding it to more communities throughout Haiti and bringing more people involved. And on the politics side, it's about the institutionalization of political life in Haiti. It's almost taboo today. So the leaders have decided, all right, politics has got to change in Haiti in order for there to be better social cohesion and for the country to move in a different direction.
All right.
Okay, so that collective vision, it's about getting everyone moving in that same direction towards that Soleil Levé. Okay, and Carrefour l'Espoir, in a sentence, it's the catalyst for the emergence of a wise collective leadership that will establish the foundation for the transformation of Haitian society. Where do we go from here? So after, all these working with the that's the first phase. So we've designed 2.0, what we refer to as, hold on, there's someone making a lot of noise.
Darlene Moise, can you mute yourself?
Okay, so this is in a one slide, this is Carrefour l'Espoir 2.0, and what we've been working to what we've been working on for this project, all this effort, all this hard work that's been going into Kafuliswa to be sustainable. Because up until now, we've all been doing this on our free time. And we barely have free time, and we've given so much time and effort, but it needs to go beyond not only the convening team of 10, we ended up adding 3 more people to the coordination team, because if you want something to last, you need more women on board and you need more young people on board. So we've definitely done that. So us 10 plus the 50 leaders, now getting all of their ecosystems involved, this is how we see this moving forward. And it's so important, Kafuliswa is not just about thinking, it's really about acting. So being able to maneuver between the two is very key for this effort towards Soleil Levé to move forward. And this last slide is our symbol of how we work and how Kafuliswa needs to keep working as a social lab. So constantly shifting from thinking to planning to rallying, implementing, acting, back around to measuring, learning, improving, and constantly shifting through all of that, pivoting through all of that, but fundamentally with our hearts in the right place. Okay, and that's it. Kafuliswa high level. Again, our website is kafuliswa.org. Feel free to visit it. For this to really move forward, it needs more people on board, and we've been blessed to have we feel like it's the best minds in Haiti that have been part of this, and we welcome more people to join in on this efforts because we definitely need not only more brains into this efforts, but we also need some more financial resources for this to continue. The plan is there right now, is just about executing. So thank you for listening. If you have any questions, I'll definitely share my contact info.
Regine, thank you so much for a wonderful presentation. And I think you've seen, I don't know if people can see me, but I've been to first was presentation and Regine's. I'm just smiling and smiling and smiling and nodding and nodding. And it's just wonderful. And, I'm just cheering because finally, I think some of us, the people who have joined us and hopefully afterwards can just sort of like they can see the leadership, the thinking, the vision that is really there, that needs to be engaged and leveraged and supported, okay? We know what needs to be done for our country, people. Work with us. So next, Louis-Henri, are you ready?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, fantastic. So now, go ahead.
Well, thank you, Marie-Rose. It's going to be a bit difficult to go after Regine and that beautiful presentation of hers, but I'll try to share a few things. So I'm gonna share my screen also. Yes. So. So La Coula Paix is a community of people engaged in building peace in Haiti. And we also have an organization that bears the same name. The principle of it is that community has to come first before organization. And we come from different backgrounds, different sectors of society, including former armed actors who are now building peace with us. And this first picture here illustrates our mission and our way of doing things. And it illustrates the pathways to peace and reconciliation. The young lady, yes, who's on the left is a businesswoman who at a certain point had been kidnapped And she trusted me to invite her to the neighborhood of Saint-Martin to meet the community of Saint-Martin and break the prejudices and the trauma that she had lived through. And in the meetings that she had, she actually met this young man who's from the gangs of Saint-Martin, who unfortunately passed away a few months ago. So the idea is through intermediation, you bring about peace and reconciliation between people. We all know what's going on in the country, right? And we won't stay on this, but for sure, if we don't transform the conflicts that we're living through here in Haiti, we will have continuing scenarios of the sort, as Regine so aptly and her team so aptly identified. So we are in a vicious circle here in Haiti of violence. And as long as we have this violence going on, there's not going to be any trust. There's not going to be any trust. If there's no trust, there's not going to be investment, the kind of investment that is needed in this country. There's no investment. There's not going to be any job creation and business creation and development. And therefore, we're going to be still in the unemployment mode, poverty, misery. People are going to continue to revolt and more violence. We have to cut this cycle of violence, and our way of doing it is through dialogue. So we are facing a situation where there's this structural violence in our society, where groups, systems, institutions, practices, public policies, cultures, corruption, allow some to enjoy privileges to the detriment of a mass of others, which results in secondary violence. So secondary violence has individual aspects to it, individual destruction, trauma, despondency, hopelessness, etc. Community destruction, crime, armed groups, gangs, interpersonal violence, domestic violence, rape, and also national or international destruction, protests, revolutions, terrorism, coup d'etat, civil wars. And we're in that scenario, as Regine said right now. At La Coup La Paix, we are building peaceful, resilient communities, building and strengthening multi-sector community platforms, training of platform members in conflict transformation, and encouragement of conversations to identify what is needed in the communities, and then seek to satisfy those needs, not necessarily directly ourselves, but through other partners and allied organizations and institutions. We encourage dialogues in the communities with the armed groups, with members of the communities, with community leaders, private sectors, local state actors, ASEC, CASEC, city delegates, administrative and community police. The big issue in the communities is the absence of the state, and the vacuum is filled, unfortunately, by the armed groups. So we encourage dialogue, as we said. Dialogue is the first step to understanding the issues and the needs of all. We learn to listen to each other. It is necessary for us to listen to each other. It is the first step to reconciliation. And dialogue is also a facilitated process. It's not something that happens by itself. It's something people learn to facilitate. And we are involved in preparing facilitators also. We encourage entrepreneur development and mentoring in the neighborhoods. Since there's not meaningful investment in neighborhoods because of the environment of violence, because of the lack of state presence, then you have to have work created within the neighborhoods through development of small businesses, small entrepreneurs. And we did that. We encourage, we finance small entrepreneurs, and we encourage their mentoring by private sector, business, formal entrepreneurs also, that do presentations, that meet them, that mentor them, and that introduce them into larger networks where they can promote their goods. We're also involved in an analysis of the root causes of the Haitian conflict. We've been fighting with each other for the past 200 years. And why is that? Where does that come from? So we have a process where we've involved members of the political sector, or that we call track 1.5. Track 2, formal business sector, media sector, other civil society sectors. And track 3, 4 community leaders from 4 neighborhoods, Saint-Martin, Bel-Air, La Saline, and Martissant. And not only are they looking at the root causes, but they're also looking at the solutions to those root causes. And they're working on parallel tracks for the time being, but they will also be getting together and coming up with one single analysis and one single set of solutions. In our meetings, we try to get to know each other, rehumanize each other, value and respect and appreciate each other. This is the basis for transforming our society. We need to build community. The facilitators create a container and they do processes, they create situations where community happens. It's not something that the facilitators themselves can make happen. It has to happen in the container. And we promote our shared society. We're divided in too many tribes, but we have to realize that we're sharing one society. We work also at the youth level. We've built a network of 85 youths in Saint-Martin, Bel-Air, and Carrefour, and we've provided them with leadership skills, professional skills, trauma healing, and business. And the reason for that is we noticed that every time a bars leader, a gang leader would disappear, either he would come out of violence or he would be killed, arrested by police, immediately he was replaced by another gang armed leader. And so where are the young leaders that can be the new models for the neighborhoods? We prepare, as I said, dialogue facilitators and mediators. So we have 20 experienced facilitators on the ground, and we're training the youth, 12 from the youth groups to be facilitators also. A lot of times you hear about dialogue processes, and when you ask who's facilitating that, you don't know who's facilitating that. We work in all the frontline neighborhoods, Saint-Martin, Delma 2, Tokyo, Cité Soleil, Bel-Air, Martissant, Carrefour, Carrefour-Feuille, and we've worked also in Miragua, Narcaé, and Calan. So we've achieved over the years, peace building is a long-term process. You sometimes do 3 steps forward, 2 steps backward. And we managed some pretty good results between 2014 and 2017 between Tibois and Gravine by helping them delimit their areas of influence. And also the local elections in 2015, the candidates agreed to not fight with each other and allow each other to campaign in their respective neighborhoods. I invite you to visit our website if you would like to know more about what we do. So our vision is that La Coulapé envisions a peaceful and prosperous Haiti through the creation and deepening of human relations that transcend our deep social divisions in order to collectively build a more inclusive, equitable, and just society. And our mission is that La Coulapé builds a more peaceful Haiti by transforming violence and conflict from the individual to communities and on to the whole of Haitian society. What can we do together? Support each other's peace-building efforts and work, build a tapestry of interconnected activity and organizations, do conflict mediation programs and trainings at local, institutional, national, or government levels, develop a national dialogue process starting with the local communities. It has to be from the bottom up. We've seen a lot of top-down efforts. It's not going to work. So from the section communal upwards, with immediate collaborative activities and practical solutions to start building trust, moving on progressively to other administrative levels, commune, department, until the effort involves the whole country. Dialogues across social sectors. We need all social sectors from all different ethnic and social backgrounds have to meet, and also require transparency and accountability in government. So I want to thank you. I'm co-founder and executive director of La Paix, as I said. Join us in this great journey in building a peaceful and prosperous Haiti. You can visit our website and make contact with us. We're happy to answer your questions. Thank you very much. And I look forward to more questions and engaging with the other panelists. Thank you.
Louis-Henri, thank you again. I mean, I keep getting amazed by the wonderful presentations and the work and the initiatives, especially as I know how much it takes and how much we have to sacrifice and bleed to do it, and we should not have, because local leaders should be supported. And you know, I want to echo what Louis-Henri has said about the top-down approach. We have been basically sort of like an experiment for so many, and it doesn't matter how well-meaning or not, but for so many, by so many external stakeholders, and it hasn't worked. It hasn't worked, people. It is time for us to do the work the way it needs to be done. Now, having done, I'm done with my rant. So I will pass the baton to Gilles. Gilles, please, your turn.
Thank you, Marie-Rose. Hello, everybody. Well, it sounds like my predecessors said everything. I don't feel I have to cover much more. So I will talk about the Gun Fondation Haiti today. It's the first network of philanthropic entities in the country. And before telling you about it, I would like to tell you where the concept comes from. So we developed an idea of connecting communities to funders through a value chain of service providers. And what this means is, like Francois had described, communities are often left out in the decision-making into creating programs in the country. And this goes from all types of funders, the Haitian government, international, multilateral, bilateral funders, even some philanthropic entities. And this results, the main result is that their basic needs are often not met. You know, I like to use a joke sometimes. This is as if, you know, they go into this community, or somebody shows up to your house and they sell you the best mousetrap, and they show you everything, they install it for you, and they leave. But when they leave, you didn't have a mouse problem, you had a cockroach problem. So, you know, what do you do with that? And this usually ends up creating more problems. And so how do we fix this problem? And like my predecessors have said, collaboration is key. Getting people together is key. The country, as you know, is very fragmented. We seldom talk to each other. There's a lot of duplication of effort at all levels. And these are endemic problems, they're continuing problems over a long time. So from this concept of building this value chain, and when I say value chain, it also means that there is an economic opportunity for all the links in the chain, because often enough people think of philanthropy or development as in people giving their time pro bono. If you want quality, you need to pay for it. So there needs to be an economic opportunity for people working in this space. So that's what I mean about value chain. So the Gun Fondation Haiti was initiated by, now we're at 9 foundations, 8 local and 1 in the Haitians living abroad based in Miami. So there are Fondation Sogebank, Fondation Digicel, CODEV, Fondation Lucienne Deschamps, Haiti Community Trust based in Miami, Fondation Audubon, Fondation Valerio Canez, Fondation Brezo, and Fondation Espoir present here that you heard from Francois earlier. And the goal of the Gun Fondation is based on 3 pillars. So first, to be a convening space. Regine talked a lot about convening, as well did Louis-Henri, as well did Francois. So, convening is the word of the day today. If this was Sesame Street, that's our word of the day. And basically convening in Haitian terms, it's a combit. Combit is a word described in the agricultural sector of people coming together to do something, a common goal. And so expanding this combit at all levels and creating a convening space so that different entities can come together and think about and plan for development issues. And just to illustrate this concept, so let's take building a school. There have been many projects in education in the country. Some certain entities build schools, they'll build the building and they'll leave that shell for somebody else to manage. Other people will train teachers. Other people will train the managers of the school. Some entities will provide curriculum to the schools for them to use, but they don't talk to each other. So what's the result? Often enough, it's a bit like it's an expression in Haiti where na brasser poussière. So we're beating water to make butter, basically. So you convene people, and this concept was very much inspired by, if you've heard about it, the Haiti Tech Summit, which brought a lot of different minds into the country to think about how technology could influence development. And so you convene to build one school, for example, you need to convene the people who will build that school to build in a way that is sustainable within the community where they're building it. So the community needs to be involved, saying, okay, we want the school to be built in such and such a place and not here. You need entities in terms of environmental issues. Is the school built to promote environmental conservancy? Do you need people there? Entities like Enseigner pour Haiti that is doing an amazing job to train teachers to teach a different way. You need people to provide energy to the school. People managing the school to understand financial management, to understand sustainability and everything else, because the school does need to be managed properly. And everything else that you do to have the school run by itself, just like a business, because the school needs to make a profit to be able to run itself. Nothing is for free. You need things to be paid for. And how do they get paid for? And where do people can find opportunities to take part in these development initiatives? So second pillar for the Gun Fondation is to act as a repository of information. As you know, to do research in Haiti is it's a tricky subject, to say the least. You find information here and there. A lot of the times it's out of date. It's not even valid anymore. You find studies that are 10 years old, but it doesn't mean that the data doesn't exist. There are a lot of different research projects being done over time, every year, but the information is not consolidated. So we do have a ministry, is the Ministère du Plan, that should be the repository for information and archives, so that whenever there's a new project being done, it can be done based on data that already exists. There's a lot of time, way too many times, projects are happening and people need to go find data in order to do the project. Well, the data already exists. So how do we reduce that time? How do we make that more efficient? So build an archive of everything that's going on in the country, all the projects, all the service providers, anyone that's working in the country, that data will be collected and put in an archive that's accessible to everyone. And of course, the internet is here to provide that accessibility. So that's second. Third pillar is to act as an advocacy group, so that, because by building this convenient space and therefore building a network of different entities, having archives where you can base your decisions on data, now you're in a position where you can advocate in a language that the funders, meaning the Haitian government, multilaterals, bilaterals, other philanthropic entities, and just people in general, to be able to advocate for these communities. And so that policy can be written with these communities in mind, so that their voice can be heard. So for example, the work that the Fondation Espoir is doing with the community, it's helping them have a voice and be able to explain exactly in a language that a foreigner or even somebody outside the community will understand, so that they know how to get involved with that community. And if that doesn't happen, we're going to be exactly the same place we are now in 50 years. So how do we change that? Is, well, we believe through, at least, partly we can do this by connecting all of these folks. And there's one question that Marie was asked us to think about for today, and is what do we think could change Haiti? So the Gun Fondation is a very young or entity. At first, it started as a network of foundations to start thinking strategically on development, because often enough, even individually, the way they were working is more as people would ask them for money, and then they would provide funds to either do a school or do some sort of activity. But how do you start acting in a way where you act like a USAID, for example? USAID or the IDB or any of these entities, when they create programs, before money is disbursed for a project, a strategic plan was done 5 years prior to do that. And so this is how we should start acting locally, so that when we get into a situation like today, we have our president assassinated, and everybody's scrambling to find a way so that for the civil society to say what we need to do. But we haven't come together to do this. We haven't come together 2 years ago, 5 years ago to do this. So how do you do this? Is create this strategic thinking and strategic planning to be able to not be surprised by a situation. So there are 4 concepts that we work with. First of all, connecting silos of information and silos of action. Because again, like Regine showed you in that picture, the country is fragmented at all levels. But doesn't mean that there are not people doing good things. Obviously, you've heard from 3 amazing projects and that are doing a bunch of things, but I'm sure some of you had never heard of them. How do we fix that? How do we get this cohesion and connecting these silos? That's one. Second is to do strategic planning. We fail to do strategic planning at all levels, everywhere in every sector in the country. And there are experts to do this. For example, the Gun Fondation hired a Haitian American based in Florida, Milka Millians, who helped us do our strategic plan, because that's what she does as her business. I started helping the group to do this, but I had reached my level of competency and I couldn't do it anymore. So we hired somebody to do this. And that's, again, what my point into providing economic opportunities for people to sell their services. And Regine, as mentioned, we raised $600,000 locally from Haitian businesses through one of the worst economic periods in the country. But they saw the value of what had to be done. And so money is there. Money is available. It's just, you need to voice it in a way where people will understand and plan strategically. Third is to promote data-driven decision-making. we shoot from the hip for most of our decisions, locally, regionally, national. And this cannot go on. This is why we're here today. This is why we have so many problems. A lot of our decisions are based on what we think we know, and we do not ask other people's opinions, and we do not do this scientifically. So data is the world's commodity today. We do not use it, we need to start using it. And again, the second pillar, the archiving and repository of information, that is what this is about, is to find a place where you can find trustworthy data that does exist, that is located in one place or shared through different silos, connecting those silos so that you can take better decisions on whatever you're going to do in terms of development in the country. And finally, the fourth concept is systems. It's a systemic approach, building systems, because we're doing all of this today, but how are we going to ask for help? How are we going to get people involved in what we're doing? How, if we're not here today, who's going to take the baton and move this forward? If a system doesn't exist to do this, it won't happen. And that's why we are in this constant restarting from the government, from our private sector, from our civil society, from every sector in the country. It's always this, it's like a tire stuck in the mud, because we're not able to get traction, because we're not thinking in terms of systems. If we build system on whatever we try to do, we have a better chance of succeeding. That's what they do all around the world. That's what successful companies do. That's what successful governments do. We need to start doing this. And it's a science. It can be learned. There are professionals, again, who specialize in this. We can hire them. This is a great way for us to get Haitians living outside of Haiti involved in the country, because this gives them an economic opportunity to sell their services in the country and build these bridges and build these gaps. Oh, something I always hear is that Haitians living outside of Haiti don't understand the situation. Well, are they given a chance to understand the situation? I don't think so. They've tried, a lot of them have tried to give their funds, give their time, and because of this lack of planning, they get distraught and discouraged. And we have to stop this cycle of not having things on a systemic approach so that people can get involved and understand where they're going. Because if you invite somebody on a trip, you need to let them know where you're going and how you're going to get there, or else they're not going to come. So we need to start doing this internally in order to ask for help, ask for assistance, ask for partnerships. And this is what the vision of the Gun Foundation is. As I said, we are a young group, even though we've expanded. The first initiative that the group decided to get involved in is the Carrefour L'Espoir initiative. Second thing that they did is last year during the COVID period, they all called each other to see how together they could provide assistance to the plan that was being developed by the government at the time. So conversations have been happening more on a personal level, which is great. It was exactly what we wanted. We still need to do a lot of things in terms of building our internal systems so that we can invite more people into the fray and start doing things more strategically. So if you want more information, we're all available to be contacted and explore collaborative partnerships anytime, because we're still moving forward. We're making partnerships with other regional networks, for example, like the Caribbean Philanthropic Alliance that was developed a couple of years ago, and that's mainly focusing on environmental issues. Also, again, connecting the different people, different entities in each country to plant trees. So there are many things to be done, but if we want to do them well, we need to put our heads together and build this conduit to move forward. So thank you, Marie-Rose. I will stop there and open for questions.
Thank you so much, Jill. Again, a wonderful presentation. And at this point, I am sort of like beaming with pride and so happy that, all of you have come together. But even though these are amazing speakers and amazing, doing amazing work, what I want to say is that this is a sample. So before you do anything, think local, and we do need to get on the map. A couple of things that I want to sort of like touch base on. I think Jill and everybody else, we've talked about collaboration. We've talked about, but all of the work that we're doing, each one of us, we're talking about a long-term view, a long-term investment, long-term view. And frankly, it is clear that the short-term project approach that traditionally sort of, is the aid sector's approach, and the process that sort of like leaves local communities out is not one that has worked for us. It's not one that will work for us. I think you also stress the data piece, but also the fact that the data is there. We need to collect it. We need to structure it. But again, talking about local data, local information, because very often in terms of the systemic way, what do we have? We have people, and some of them have never set their feet in the country, that are the researchers. And this is what large institutions base their initiative on. And it's like, it's a waste of money. The other thing is that planning, so many of us are just going and systematically thinking about addressing the root of the issues. We're tired of band-aids, people. This is not working, and don't blame it on us if the band-aid approach doesn't work. And I know some people are well-meaning and everything else, but we really have to start and invest deeply on the long term, which is all of us are trying to do with limited resources. Okay, this is the power of local leadership, and basically we're putting our heart in all of this, our resources and our thinking, okay, and our vision. The other piece, so the piece that I want to say is that it's a question of what I'm trying to advocate at every step, everywhere. People are probably tired of me, but it's like invest in ecosystem, okay? Ecosystem. If you want to help the country, I realize that there are a lot of well-meaning people that just go and they say, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that, but let's ask communities what they need. Let's make sure we engage them. Let's make sure it makes sense. And I know it makes people feel good to sort of help this one child and this whatever, but can you imagine the potential of bringing together resources in a streamlined manner and coordinate the building of an ecosystem? This is the key to long-term sustainability. This is the key to transforming Haiti, okay? If there is one thing that I want, whether it's just small donor giving $10, and I can't even tell you how much I appreciate that, from 10 to, to thousands or tens of thousands, to the institutional donor, think about something that will stay, that will take hold, that will grow the country and its people. So at any rate, now I think, because at this point, we have come to a point. Regina, Cherie, why don't you, at this point, do we have questions in the chat?
No, we had a couple of questions that were already answered. Someone brought a really good point about including disabled, and Louis-Henri Moss replied that, the former minister is part of his project. And even on the Carrefour d'Espoir side, we have members with disabilities and definitely have been working with them and, thinking of this process with that in mind, for sure.
I think that this is a very good point, because people with disabilities talking about being left behind. And the reality is that diversity is something that all of us are trying to bring in diversity of voices, diversity, economic diversity, political diversity. We just want every possible person to be able to have a seat at the table, leave the division and leave the whatever aside, and really try to focus on turning the country around. We cannot ignore the needs of people with disabilities, especially given that after the earthquake, there were so many people. And after every disaster, there are people that become disabled. This is something that I know we need to have somebody with disabilities on the board. We had invited sort of like people, and we need to be sensitive to the needs of people with disability. It's a human right. Okay. So anything else in terms of, because amazingly, we're doing well on time. Is there, I'm sorry, Regine.
The other thing that I see that's repeatedly coming up on the chat is people asking for contact info. So there should maybe be a way where we can share all of our contact info. So all the panelists and the projects that we're working on, mostly because, you know, in the midst of the chaos that we're living through in Haiti, despite that, there's some really good people doing really good things. And what we've been seeing over the past few months, years, is more people leaving. And it's like, we need brains in Haiti, and the brains that are in Haiti need support. It's not easy operating in Haiti, guys. I mean, I'm diaspora, I'm from New Orleans, but I've been in Haiti for 11 years now. Guys. But we need to support those that are there, because there are really good things going on. And, you know, these projects, I mean, Carrefour, La Coulapé, for example, has been operating for several years now. But imagine having to operate under all the stresses and dealing with the difficult challenges. And for example, you're not sure how you're going to do the next 6 months, like having some sort of stability, having the ability to pay respectable salaries for these people working on these projects is so important, and it's so challenging to do. I think your Pathways webinar, Marie-Louise, has done a good job at carefully selecting your panelists. So we hope that all the participants take the time to learn more. And if there's something that speaks to you, please support these projects.
I think that, Regine, you're bringing a perfect point. And that's one of the things in terms of, we all want to challenge the thinking that there isn't leadership, there isn't vision in Haiti. There are wonderful things happening, except that, you know, we haven't made the connection. And as I said, you know, at one point, you know, in a fairly, you know, exhausted way, it's like this pathway, you know, this building pathway seminars, it wasn't something that, you know, I needed to add to my full plate. But you know what? It's something that needs to happen, that needed to happen, that needs to happen. People need to see the local leaders, they need to see the vision, and they need to be able to support it. And when I mean people, I don't just mean international stakeholders. I mean Haitians, okay? I mean, you know, that, you know, everybody, whether you live like living, everybody internationally that sort of like want to support these sort of things, they need to sort of think locally. So there will be, one of the things that we're looking at is documenting the outcomes, providing people's information. One of the things that sort of like ESPOI is looking at, you know, and also the Community Foundation, and I know Louis-Henri, you're working on some mapping, but you know, I get frustrated when I see 1.5 million being awarded to large international organization and UN organization to do some mapping, and then they're like, oh, local organization can register online, and they create a website, and I'm like, 1.5 million, give me the money, people. I will do outreach, I will create jobs, local jobs, and we will tell you who's on the ground. So one of the things that sort of like we're all scrambling with on our own too, and we have to connect, and Henri and I were talking yesterday, it's like people need to know what's there. There is so much there. And this country would not be alive without the potomitan, the supporting beams of like potomitans in every single community. This kind of decline that we've seen over decades, this country should be dead. It's people bleeding to make sure their communities are there. And there are people at every level. It's not like the tiny grassroots. And we're going to have like a very diverse group of people for every seminar, because we want to show the diversity of opinions and the level of thinking and leadership at every point. And one of the things that I want to say, and I think like Gilles I mean, each and every one of you have like talked about it. People get engaged, and you've talked about it, Regine. People get enraged and they invest when they see themselves. When they see themselves, okay, now I'm talking with my hands, never mind people. When they see themselves in the vision, when they recognize themselves, you cannot develop people without them. The way very often and too often you have international stakeholders, whether we're talking about, you know, philanthropy, whether we're talking about humanitarian and development doing it. The bottom line is that I very often talk about the Haiti Community Foundation, and I said, oh, no, I'm not in a silo. You know where we come from? We serve communities, and we are in all of these sectors, because that's what it is. I'm sorry.
Excuse me, I see we have Elsie who raised her hand first, and then we have a question from Valiska in the group chat.
Okay, so, do you want to pick one? I'm sorry, and I'll stop.
Let's go with Elsie first, since she raised her hand first.
Okay.
She's been waiting patiently.
All right, sorry.
No worries. Elsie, you want to unmute yourself, please?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, okay, great. Thank you. I really appreciate that program that you're having. And my name is Elsie Craig, and I have been working with Haiti, though I live in Miami, New York, now in Georgia, for 27 years, okay, in the Kenskoff area. In my field is education. Now, for the last 3 years, and also for the past 17 years, we had a summer camp for kids, up to 2,000 kids when we had the earthquake. So my question or my statement is that for the last 3 years, we have not been able to do the summer camp, because how can I bring 30, 35 people to Haiti when I myself don't feel secure? So I think the biggest problem we have right now is insecurity. I love Haiti, even though I left more than 50 years ago. But that insecurity, you cannot bring people there. We want to help, we want to participate. I'm retired now, my organization is my life, and I'm doing everything free. We don't have a salary and everything, but you know that this is a big problem. We need to take care of that insecurity.
Completely agree with you, Elsie. I mean,
yeah, sorry.
It's scary just trying to do basic things, going to the grocery or bringing your kids to school. The security has deteriorated, and it's an immediate thing that needs to be addressed.
Yes.
And it's not even clear how it's going to be addressed yet. And it's a major concern. And that's why more people are leaving, unfortunately.
And I support you, I respect you, because I said, my God, how can they live like that? Because you don't know, you can't. I used to drive from Port-au-Prince to Jacmel. Yeah, now you cannot do that. And I used to bring up to 35 volunteers, all, you know, people from Canada, New York, Florida, and, you know, now I cannot bring these people because you don't know, you understand? So I'm very frustrated. And sometimes I get emotional when I talk about that, because here I am, we want to help. We've been educated kids there. We sent things to kids to college and everything. Now they're working, a lawyer, you know, different field, okay? And, you know, now things are very slow. I can't even ask people to give me money anymore because, you know, what's happening, you understand? So to me, we need to really look at that, because I'm ready to come to, right now, I feel so bad. I said, my God, I love Haiti and Cuba and I can't go anywhere. And I'm retired, that's all I do is travel.
But Elsie, what I want to say is that I think, and I hear you, and I hear your frustration, and all of us are frustrated. There are times where, because a lot of people said, oh, I'm frustrated and I'm not doing anything, and because it's like whatever. We are trying to focus on what we can change. And yes, there are things such as like Louis-Henri working on some things, and all of us in our small ways are trying to do. But what you have to understand that in terms of the local community groups, we're here to stay, and despite security issues, we just try to find ways of continue to working, because la vie continue, life goes on. And I think that's what people need to realize also, the strength and the power of local leadership. when you have like a Médecins Sans Frontières who closes in Martissa, it's quite understandable. But on the other hand, Louis-Henri, where are you working again? Is it Martissa too?
Yes, and actually, I wanted to chime in and with some ideas. First of all, the issue of security in Haiti has to be a societal, there has to be an answer at the level of society. It's not something that you're gonna change through police work only. It has to do with the whole issue of society in general, but in particular also it has to start with connecting with the powers that are in charge of the country, and getting them to understand what the suffering of the communities is and represents. Because what happens is that we're so detached from each other that as people die in Martissa, it's like, well, somebody died in Martissa, somebody follow that particular law. So there's no such thing as a zone de non-droit. So all of that, we have to work together to transform and change.
I think you're completely right, Louis-Henri. And what I want to say, because I think that we may end up having to have like follow-up discussion when it comes to all of this, because there is so much to delve into. But for now, we said we're going to stop at 12. So I am sorry for all of you who have like comments and questions, but we just need to be able to sort of like wrap things up. So
I was just,
yes.
I'd like to add something.
Okay.
So we've shared some of our contacts in the chat, and there will be a follow-up email to let everybody know how to reach every one of us. Because there was a comment about somebody who's in education. If you want to get involved, and a lot of, like Elsie said, if Zoom exists for a reason, so a lot of the things you might want to do, you don't have to be physically in Haiti, so you can still get involved. So please get in contact with us, and we can better guide you on what to do.
We will have a follow-up email that, first of all, this is going to be posted and distributed. We will have a follow-up email and make sure that people have everybody's information. We also plan to have sort of like a report on all of this on each session and on the series of webinars to just talk about our findings and the comments and all of this, because this is a lot of very rich discussion that really documents the need for the investment in local ecosystem and local leadership and initiatives. So all of this is something that we plan to document. I just want to very quickly first thank the panelists, thank the participants. And before I sort of like go, I want to take a couple of steps back, thank the communities that have sort of like been going and keep on going on in very difficult circumstances. And this is an amazing team. Pascal, we know, thank you so much for your technical support. And we have other webinars that are sort of like coming up. Sign up if you want to know, with different focus areas, and we'll be keeping you informed and in touch. Thank you so much. So
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank you, everyone.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
Marie-Rose?
Yes.
Pascal, we have 2 minutes left, and we have one raise up. Can we take Hudicourt?
Yes. Yes. Thank you.
You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Okay. I wanted to talk to LC. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. LC, I'm in education and I'm connected to a very large network. The needs are very great. And although you enjoy Haiti and you want to come, we don't encourage people who are not already in Haiti to come right now. Indeed, even when you can take the risk, you don't want to take 35 people to Haiti, but there are people in Haiti. So you can take this problem as an opportunity to reflect on how you could actually help better by supporting people that are on the ground and working with their nails to get results and help children, because it does exist. So, but you know your vision, you know what you want to accomplish. So the thinking and the vision has to come from you, but it's possible to work while not necessarily being in Haiti. And you might be surprised, you might realize greater, reach a greater purpose, because by supporting those that are on the ground, maybe you help people that are on the ground go further. And these people might become models for those who are also in Haiti. Because when all the help comes from outside and then leaves, the vision is the only way to succeed and to be in a position to help is to leave Haiti.
I think, thank you so much, Caroline. Caroline is the Vice President of the Haiti Community Foundation. And thank you so much. And she actually is planning and managing the education webinar that will be coming. What's the date again, Caroline? I forgot.
September 16th.
September 16th.
Okay.
So keep listening, and let's see how we can solve things and focus and get things moving forward. Thank you very much. Pascal, I think it's a wrap up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you to all the team.
Well,